In the golden age of supermodels, one name stood out for her hypnotic beauty, effortless cool, and magnetic presence: Helena Christensen. She wasn't just another pretty face on a runway, she defined what it meant to be a 90s icon. From walking the catwalks of Paris and Milan to starring in Chris Isaak's unforgettable Wicked Game music video, Helena had the world at her feet. Her striking features and mysterious aura made her a favorite among the fashion elite and a symbol of the era's glamour. Alongside legends like Cindy, Naomi, and Linda, she became part of an unstoppable force that changed modeling forever. But unlike many of her peers who stayed in the public eye, Helena slowly faded from the spotlight. No scandal, no meltdown, no headlines. Just silence. It left fans wondering, what happened? Why did someone who seemed to have it all suddenly step away when she was at the top of her game? The story of Helena Christensen isn't just about fame or beauty. It's about what happens when the cameras stop flashing, when the world moves on, and a woman decides to reclaim her own story. She was once the face of major campaigns, the muse of photographers, and the envy of millions. But behind the glamour was a fiercely private woman who had dreams beyond the runway. As we explore her rise to global stardom, her sudden shift from the spotlight, and the choices she made away from fame, we'll uncover a story that's both unexpected and deeply human. Because sometimes, disappearing isn't the end, it's the beginning of something more meaningful. So, where did Helena Christensen go? And what is she doing now? Her journey is one you won't want to miss. Before she ever became a household name, Helena Christensen was just a girl from Copenhagen with Peruvian and Danish roots, navigating life far from the flashing lights of fashion capitals. She started out in beauty pageants, Miss Denmark at just 18, and that led her straight into the modeling world. What set Helena apart wasn't just her exotic beauty or piercing green eyes. It was her quiet intensity, her ability to appear both powerful and vulnerable in front of a lens. She didn't need to say much, her presence spoke louder than words. By the early 1990s, Helena was everywhere. Magazine covers, runway shows, billboards. She became a Victoria's Secret angel, walked for top designers, and appeared in campaigns for Chanel, Versace, and Revlon. But it was that hauntingly beautiful black and white video for Wicked Game that burned her image into pop culture forever. The beach, the slow motion, the raw emotion, she wasn't just modeling anymore, she was telling a story. And everyone was watching. Still, even at the height of her fame, Helena never seemed completely comfortable with the noise around her. She kept parts of her life private, rarely spoke out in the press, and didn't chase celebrity like some others did. She was close with other supermodels, Naomi Campbell, Christy Turlington, Kate Moss, but while they embraced red carpets and media attention, Helena often disappeared between jobs, choosing to travel, focus on photography, or spend time with loved ones. And then, slowly, she stopped appearing. One season she was front row at Fashion Week, the next, she was nowhere to be seen. No big announcement. No farewell tour. Just absence. People assumed she had stepped back, but no one really knew why. Was it burnout? A desire for a different life? Or something deeper? As the industry evolved and newer faces took over, Helena's name became more of a nostalgic whisper. But her absence only made people more curious. Where did she go? What had she been doing all these years? And why, with everything going for her, did she leave it all behind? Her silence became the real mystery. And the answers are more layered than anyone expected. As Helena slipped away from the spotlight, the fashion world moved on without much pause. New faces came in, fresh, younger, louder. The era of the supermodel was slowly fading, replaced by digital influencers and fast-paced trends. But while the cameras were focused elsewhere, Helena was living a completely different kind of life, one that didn't revolve around fame or attention. She started focusing more on photography, often stepping behind the lens instead of in front of it. It was a shift that felt quiet but powerful, almost like she was reclaiming her narrative on her own terms. But this change didn't come without tension. Some insiders whispered that she had grown tired of the pressure, the constant scrutiny over her looks, her age, her personal life. Others believed she had seen the darker side of the fashion industry and decided it wasn't worth the price. There were rumors of burnout, of wanting a more meaningful life, of disillusionment with an industry that prizes beauty but rarely respects boundaries. Helena never addressed the speculation directly. Her silence only made it easier for people to project their own theories. At the same time, a more personal subplot was unfolding. She became a mother to her son with actor Norman Reedus, and those close to her say motherhood shifted her priorities entirely. She stopped chasing fashion weeks and instead chose long walks, photography projects, and time with her family. She didn't disappear in the traditional sense, she just stopped playing the game the way the world expected her to. Still, the mystery remained. People couldn't understand how someone so successful could walk away from it all. Was she truly content living outside the fame bubble? Or was there something unresolved behind the curtain, a silent battle the public never saw? Interviews with those who knew her described Helena as fiercely independent but also deeply introspective. She was never interested in being just a pretty face. She was creative, thoughtful, even restless at times. Maybe that restlessness is what pulled her away. Or maybe, behind all the glamour, there were moments of quiet conflict that never made headlines. Whatever the truth is, one thing is certain, Helena Christensen's story isn't just about a career, it's about identity, reinvention, and what it really means to step out of the spotlight. As the years passed, Helena Christensen became a ghost in the world she once ruled. No dramatic fall from grace, no scandals or public breakdowns, just a steady, deliberate retreat. And yet, her absence felt louder than any headline. Fashion editors still mentioned her name with reverence, fans continued to search for her old campaigns, and interviewers often asked, "Whatever happened to Helena Christensen?" But there were no clear answers, just small glimpses into a life lived away from the public eye. Every now and then, she would resurface, an art exhibit in New York, a quiet feature in a niche fashion magazine, or a collaboration with a sustainable clothing brand. But these moments were never flashy. They were purposeful, often driven by causes she cared about: climate change, conscious fashion, and body acceptance. Instead of posing for attention, she was using her platform differently, more thoughtfully. Still, it left people asking, was this her choice, or a quiet struggle behind the scenes? Some who had worked closely with her hinted at the emotional cost of life in front of the camera. The industry that once adored her could be cold when she no longer fit its mold. Aging in fashion is rarely graceful, especially for women. The same faces they once celebrated were quickly replaced, often without warning. And for someone like Helena, who had built a career on elegance and mystery, fading into the background wasn't just about privacy, it may have been a defense. But there was another layer of tension few knew about. Behind the curated calm of her later years were hints of battles not shared with the world. Health challenges, private losses, creative frustrations. She had poured herself into photography, but even that world came with its own set of barriers. Was she truly free? Or simply trying to create a new identity in a world that had already decided who she was supposed to be? With whispers of a possible comeback, a memoir, a new campaign, maybe even a return to the runway, the curiosity around her only grew. Would she finally speak? Would the world get to hear her version of everything she left behind? The build-up was undeniable. And somewhere in that silence, a turning point was coming. Just when it seemed like Helena Christensen had settled into a quiet, purposeful life away from the spotlight, something unexpected shifted the narrative. In the middle of a digital age obsessed with nostalgia, old clips, photos, and fashion archives began resurfacing across social media platforms. Helena's iconic moments, the slow-motion beach scene in Wicked Game, her legendary runway struts, her Vogue covers, were being rediscovered by a new generation that had never experienced the supermodel era firsthand. Suddenly, Helena was everywhere again, not through her own doing, but through the viral power of the internet. And with that sudden revival came new interest, some of it respectful, some of it invasive. fashion houses started reaching out. Media outlets requested interviews. Influencers began tagging her in throwback tributes. At first, Helena remained silent. But then, something strange happened. A cryptic photo appeared on her personal Instagram, a black and white image, shot in her signature moody style, with no caption. Fans swarmed the comments. Was it a sign? Was she teasing something? What followed added fuel to the mystery. A leaked rumor claimed Helena was in talks to release a personal documentary. Not just about her modeling days, but about everything that came after, the parts people didn't see. The news sent shockwaves across the fashion world. If it was true, it meant Helena was finally ready to speak. But why now? And what would she reveal? That's when an unexpected voice entered the picture, an old friend from the supermodel era, someone who had shared the spotlight with her in the 90s. In a rare interview, this friend hinted that Helena's story wasn't just about stepping away from fame. She said there had been betrayal. Something behind the scenes that deeply hurt Helena. Something that made her lose trust, not just in people, but in the entire industry. The comment was vague, but powerful. It cracked open a new layer of tension. Was there more to Helena's disappearance than anyone knew? Had she been pushed out instead of walking away? And what exactly had happened in those final years before she faded from the public eye? The speculation grew. Some suspected financial issues. Others guessed it was a creative fallout or personal heartbreak. A few even believed there had been a legal dispute that forced her into silence. The theories spun out of control. But the truth was still locked away with Helena, just out of reach. What made everything more intense was that Helena, still mostly silent, didn't deny anything. She posted more photographs, haunting, emotional images, but no explanations. And just as quickly as the attention returned, she began pulling back again. No interviews. No statements. Just silence. The public was left in a strange limbo. Everyone wanted to understand her story, but it felt like the answers were deliberately being held back. As if the real reason for her disappearance was too personal, or too painful, to share casually. And with her rumored documentary hanging in the air, the question remained, would Helena finally tell her truth, or would she vanish again, this time for good? The rumors finally stopped being rumors when a trailer quietly dropped online, Helena Christensen, through her eyes. It wasn't a flashy release. No big press rollout. Just a 2-minute video, shared from her verified account, filled with soft music, fragments of old runway footage, and Helena's voice, calm, measured, but filled with emotion. There are things I never said out loud, she began. Maybe because I was protecting people. Or maybe, protecting myself. The internet exploded. When the documentary premiered weeks later, it wasn't what people expected. It wasn't just about fashion or fame. It was a deeply personal film about identity, survival, and self-worth. Helena opened up about the pressure to maintain perfection, the anxiety that built up behind every photo shoot, the loneliness that came with being idolized but not truly known. She talked about losing herself in the noise, and how it took walking away to find peace. But then came the twist no one saw coming. Near the end of the film, Helena revealed a conflict that had never made the headlines. During the height of her career, she discovered that someone she deeply trusted, a longtime business partner, had been exploiting her image rights without her knowledge. Her face, her name, her legacy being sold and repackaged for profit. Legal battles followed, but Helena chose not to go public. Instead, she walked away. Quietly. Gracefully. The betrayal had broken something inside her, not just professionally, but personally. It wasn't about the money. It was about being used in an industry she had once loved. The revelation hit hard. It explained the silence, the distance, the guarded way she returned. But even more powerful was what came next. Helena chose to forgive. Not for them, but for herself. She ended the film not with bitterness, but with grace. Sometimes, she said, the only way to take back your story is to stop letting others write it for you. The audience expected a scandal. What they got was something deeper, a woman reclaiming her power, not through fame, but through truth. And just when it seemed the story had ended, Helena posted one final image, a quiet portrait of herself, smiling. Captioned simply, Chapter 2. After the documentary aired, something changed, not just for Helena Christensen, but for how the world remembered her. She wasn't just a supermodel anymore. She was a storyteller, an artist, a survivor of a system that gave her so much and took just as much in return. The woman who once defined the 90s wasn't stuck in that past, she had outgrown it. For fans, it was like seeing her for the first time again, not through the lens of magazines or billboards, but through her own words. In the months that followed, Helena returned to the public eye, but in her own quiet, intentional way. She launched a photography book, capturing stories of women around the world who, like her, had faced invisible battles. She gave select interviews, speaking not about fame, but about healing, art, and the power of silence. For the first time, she was fully in control of how her image was used. And perhaps most importantly, she reconnected with younger fans who didn't know her as the woman in the Calvin Klein ads, but as someone who had lived through the rise, the fall, and the rediscovery of herself. Her relationships, too, came full circle. The fashion industry, now more aware of its past mistakes, embraced her return with newfound respect. Designers invited her not for nostalgia, but for wisdom. She mentored young models, sharing what she had learned, not just how to pose, but how to protect your voice in a world that tries to shape you. The final twist wasn't a scandal or a headline. It was peace. Helena didn't need a grand comeback. She didn't chase trends or relive old glories. She simply showed that walking away isn't failure, it's strength. And sometimes, the real story begins after the lights go out. In the end, Helena Christensen reminded everyone why she was unforgettable, not because she defined the 90s, but because she found the courage to redefine herself. A symbol of beauty, yes, but also of quiet resilience. Her journey proves that disappearing doesn't mean fading. Sometimes, it means finding your way back on your own terms.